think it's only fitting to start this episode off just with a big, deep sigh, because, oh man.
Oh, you are teeing this up so good. Enzo, to me, looks like a more agile, basically a young Chess Fabregas.
It's a Rolls Royce, man. Gotta sell it.
Messi is the Jorginho of international football. That was a dumb take.
The flag stays down!
Welcome to another episode of the Flag Stays Down podcast. Penultimate episode of the season. Spoiler alert, the last episode will be one that we recorded about a month ago. So congratulations to us on that. Boys, it's the Keep Sell Loan episode. Always fun. And I'm sure this year will be even more fun with some homegrown players up on the block. But before we get into that, how we doing?
Doing good. Just enjoying some relatively nice weather, depending on the hour here in Milwaukee. Had today was kind of interesting. It was rainy this morning, then sun, and we're supposed to get rain later tonight. So it's kind of been that way for the last week or so. But other than that, no, it was good. Had a wedding this past weekend, so it was up in Green Bay. So I went up to Appleton Thursday night and did some stuff up there, and then came back Sunday. I scared the boys when I turned on my video, as I actually look like a functioning member of society now and not like I live in the wilderness. So got cleaned up a little bit, and yeah, apparently I can still do that from time to time. So that's good to know. Little something to keep in the back pocket. But no, other than that, things are going well. Can't really complain. Parks, how are you?
Yeah, life's pretty good, man. Also can't complain. It feels like a lot of my schedule revolves around running right now because I'm running 4 times a week. So it's tough because like my weekends have to be contemplated in advance of like if I'm going to travel, like where am I going to get my runs in and how am I going to do it? So but it's a good thing. It keeps me a little bit more disciplined. It's also getting me in the sun, which is kind of nice. I've been going in the morning and kind of watching the sunrise and getting some sun on my pasty white skin. So always good to be outside a little bit more. But one of the fun things that happened on Friday was at my work desk, and I got an email that just said, "Oh, hey, Bert Kreischer's coming into town on Tuesday," and I was like, "Sweet, I'm going." So that was last night, and kind of cool that he was just sort of in town and called up Comedy Works and said, "Hey, can I come do a couple sets?" Ticket sold out in like an hour, and it was fun to just get to see him. And it's cool because Bert's someone that can sell out arenas, and I saw him at Red Rocks last year, and you're relatively far away from him, and when you're in a comedy club, I was 10 feet from the guy. So it's pretty cool to see someone that big in an intimate setting. And so fun to have a night out where we went out and got some nice dinner and then saw a show. So it does remind me though that I am 34 and I don't drink the way I used to, and I don't stay up as late as I used to on a school night, as they call it. So struggling a bit this morning, guys. It was kind of funny. I had every 2 weeks I have a 6 a.m. call, and of course that happened today. So I woke up at 5:50 and rolled out of bed and hopped on a call. So that was me today. So I'm in prime form, but all as well. Collins, how you doing, man? You've been traveling a lot too.
Yeah. Spent the weekend in Kansas City for my niece's first birthday, and now tomorrow morning I'm off to St. Louis. So yeah, it's been a lot of travel to the state of Missouri lately, which is always fun. But no, it is what it is. Aiden's got a whole ton of baseball, which is nice. Just got back from that. Hit a just piss missile earlier today. It was fantastic. So been enjoying that, and now summer is here. So more baseball, more sports. Let's do it. All right. Well, like I said, it is summer. Transfer window not officially open yet, but speculation begins. We've had quite the bit of squad turnover in the last 2 years. I don't know how much more we're going to have, but I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of it on this pod here. So as I said earlier, to keep sell loan, we're going to go through the first team and a couple of the loanees and see who should be on the squad for next year, who should make Enzo's first team going into the 24-25 season. And it's always easiest to start with the goalkeepers. It's the smallest group. So we're just gonna start right there. Matt, I love you, but we're not gonna start with Marcus Bettinelli. He's here. He's not going anywhere. He's being paid to not play. So we got 3 other ones to talk about: 2 Spaniards and a guy from MLS. We'll start with the guy from MLS. Georgi Petrovic was the starter. There is the starter. Possibly not the starter going into next season, if reports are to be to believe from Enzo in the Athletic. So what do you do? We'll lump them together here. Georgie and Robert Sanchez. What do you do with those 2?
Parker, go ahead and kick us off.
I keep Jordy, and it kind of depends on what you can get for Robert Sanchez. We saw highs, we saw lows. I think it would be hard for me to be behind him as our starting keeper day one. I wouldn't mind him being like a cup keeper for a bit and just to see how he kind of integrates back. If he shows big time improvement, like with the ball at his feet or his distribution, I think he could make a starting keeper. I'm still missing that elite shot stopper keeper that we've had in the past. I watched the Champions League final last weekend, and it made me, every time I watch Real Madrid play, it makes me miss Thibaut Courtois and just how hard he is to beat. Dortmund had a couple of like half to 3/4 chances. Thibaut's he's just big and he knows what to do. And even when you are on goal against him, he's one that you kind of trust to stop it. I say that to say that I haven't felt that feeling for Chelsea since we've had him. And then obviously it goes without saying the keeper we had before him with Petr Cech. So still missing that guy. I don't think we have that guy today. As a stopgap, I'm fine with Jordy filling in. I just don't think he's our long-term solution. And in a team where we've tried to find long-term solutions in every other position, guys that we can build on in the future, I don't think we're there for keeper yet. So I wouldn't mind seeing someone else come in, like a Jordan Pickford type or someone, not necessarily him, but just someone who's more proven, more established. I see your face, Collins. To the audio listeners, Collins cringed when I said it. But just someone who is more established, who is a more well-known keeper, who has done it for a lot longer, that has been proven. So kind of where I'm at with those 2.
I think you keep Jordy and you sell Sanchez. I think Jordy has a higher ceiling. If we're looking at it right now, I think you could say that Jordy and Sanchez are about the same. Yeah, they excel in kind of one thing maybe over the other, but it's made up, but then the other one makes up for something else. So I would say if you look at them just kind of across the board, they're relatively even. But I think Jordy has a higher ceiling. I think we'd be able to get more out of him long term than we would for a Sanchez. But again, it depends. It's one of those weird things where I think with the goalkeeper position, it depends on who's available. Like I feel like the age of like the top keepers like your Neuers, your Gigi Buffons, right? At the time, De Gea, Allison, Ederson. Like, I feel like there's not really a huge market for like world-class goalkeepers. I mean, maybe one or two comes to mind, but other than that, I feel like it's kind of a crapshoot. So I don't really know if there's like a clear-cut, yes, we need this person. I think a lot of clubs are going to be in that position of we just need kind of a stopgap until we get like the next crop of talented world-class goalkeepers. I just think we're kind of in a lull in that position. Just speaking world football in general, you don't really hear a lot of big names or a lot of like world-class keepers getting thrown around. So I think all the clubs are going to kind of be in this position of kind of keep who you have, but and try and fill the gaps as best you can. And I think that's why we stick with Jordy, just because he has the better long-term potential than I feel that Sanchez does.
Matt, I do agree with you. I think Georgie has the higher ceiling than Sanchez does. I also think he has the lower floor. Spoiler alert for next week's episode. Scott had the worst take of the year in saying that Georgie's a clear number one, and that he's elite. He's not. I think he has all kinds of potential. So I'm putting him out on loan. I think he needs more experience against top flight. He was a starter with the Revolution in MLS, but you know what? It's not necessarily worth a whole ton. We saw almost the new keeper bounce a little bit from him early on, and then he made all that. I don't want to say similar mistakes to Sanchez, because it was a different kind of mistakes that Jordy was making. Just things that should have been saved but weren't. So it wasn't like his distribution was killing him like what Sanchez was doing. It was just I don't know if he wasn't seeing the ball or what, but just balls that should have been stopped. And so I think he needs that experience. Enzo Maresca apparently is all in on Robert Sanchez, believes in what he can do. I agree. Sanchez is a great shot stopper, and I think he has the potential to be a better distributor of the ball. So I'm keeping Sanchez as my number one. I'm sending Georgie out on loan because you got another keeper who was a starter for Real Madrid for half the year coming back on on the last year of his contract, and that's Kepa Arrizabalaga. He's going to want to prove himself, get that next big payday going into his age 30 season. So what do you do with Kepa coming back with 1 year?
I do with him with what I do for almost anyone, which is anyone that was kind of part of the old regime. I wasn't part of our team last year. I don't really consider part of our team going forward. Like the players that were loaned out that were older, and I'm not talking like people that I'm not. Andre Santos isn't in this group, right? Cesare Cassidy isn't in this group. Players that were actually loaned out for like I'll call them legitimate reasons, but the Kepas and the Rams, they're not really part of the go forward plan for us. They're not part of the future, so they shouldn't take up a spot next year for us.
See, I like the idea of having Kepa. So like looking at, and I'm going to kind of shoot myself in the foot, but looking at his body of work, and more specifically his recent body of work with Chelsea, when we had Mendy and then he went to AFCON and then Kepa came in, he played extremely well. For those, what was it, like 4 months or something like that, 4 or 5 months, he played extremely well. I think he does want to prove whether or not he wants to stay with Chelsea. That's a different decision, but either way, he's going to want to prove that he can still do it at a high level and get paid, right? It's just like any other pro sport. When you're on a 1-year deal, you want to prove that you can still do it and you still can bring in a lot of money for yourself, right? Again, whether he wants to stay at Chelsea, that's different, but I think he will be in a position where he didn't have the greatest season at Madrid. I think he got replaced by, what was it, like a 19-year-old or something like that. So he's going to want to bounce back in a big way, and he's still with a big club, so that's huge for him. I think it's a great opportunity for him. I think you keep him. We've seen what he can do at his best. I'm hoping that we still get that, but we've also seen Kepa at his worst, and his worst is not great by any stretch of the imagination, right? So I think you give him the chance to prove himself. I still think with a young goalkeeping room, if you want to call it, you do need some experience. And I think he's probably somebody who could maybe help one of the younger guys if we do keep one of them, whether it's Jordy or, Gaga, whoever. You need somebody with some of that experience to maybe help. And let's not forget, goalkeepers usually enter the prime of their career once they hit 30. Like that's usually when we start seeing keepers really come into their own. So I don't think the age thing plays as much of a factor as it would like a midfielder or anybody else out there on the pitch. I think 30 is like a prime. That's kind of the prime for a lot of goalkeepers. So I think you keep him and see what he wants to do and how much fight he has in him to earn that number one spot back.
Yeah, and Kepa didn't lose his job at Real Madrid because of a talented. He lost it because he was injured, and then Andre Lunin went on a hot streak in between the posts there. I'm keeping Kepa, Matt, like you said, the hunger in that final year and a contract year, I think, is important. Whether or not he wants to stay, he's going to be fighting for those extra dollars on his next contract. And ultimately, if it doesn't work out, if he's struggling in that first half of the season, you have somebody who's experienced in a Sanchez or a Petrovic, in my case, Sanchez, to back him up. You let Kepa sign a pre-contract with somebody in January, and then you let him go train with the U21s for the rest of the season. Keep him away from the squad. And the reason I think that works is because then Bettinelli becomes your number two. In that instance, go from Kepa to Sanchez to Bettinelli. And then we had 6 goalkeepers out on loan this year, which is crazy. So, you bring back an Eddie Beach, a Lucas Bergstrom, a Gaga Slonina to be that third keeper in that instance. And I don't see much of a fall off. So, I'm keeping Kepa. It's a 1 year take or to leave it kind of thing. I don't think you're going to get too many people fighting for, or in a bidding war over Kepa this summer when they can get him for free in January. So, bring him back. All right. Let's go to defenders here. The next logical step. Parker, how many defenders did you say were on the active squad?
It includes Thiago Silva, but 12 if you include the old man who's no longer will be on the squad. But yeah, 12 listed on I'm on transfermarket.com.
Let's go by position group again, because I think there's some interesting dynamics going on in the different groups across the back line. The first being left back, Mark Cucurella and Benny Chills. I'm not sure you can have another sustainable year of those two being your left backs. There needs to be some kind. In my mind, there needs to be some kind of shakeup there. I don't know what you guys think, but what are you doing with those two?
Why don't you start us off, Collins?
Okay. Yeah, I've been pretty clear on this squad or on this pod that Ben Chilwell, even though he's vice captain under Poch this year, hasn't done enough, and not due to talent, but due to injuries, hasn't done enough to be on this squad for what he's making. He's got 2.5 years left or 3 years left on his deal or on his contract. He's been with the club now for 4 years and he's only made 106 appearances. That's not great. I think you can still get something for Benny Chills. I think there's plenty of teams in England with the whole, you need X amount of homegrown players and X amount of English and all that would snap him up in a heartbeat. I'm thinking of Newcastle and Aston Villa, someone in there. So I am actually selling Ben Chilwell in this window. Looking at amortization and what you need to break even on him, you need about 15 million. That's all you need to break even on Ben Chilwell this year. So I figure you get him for probably, you sell him off for 25, 30, make a little profit there. And then Cucurella for me has done enough to have earned, unless we bring somebody else in, to have earned that starting left back role. Matt, I know you love that, but he's a guy who seems to fight for the badge. He's a guy that all his teammates seem to enjoy playing with. Might have been played a little bit out of not necessarily position, but tactically might have been misplayed. Looked really good inverted, and that's one thing I've heard a lot about Enzo, is that he loves to play with inverted wing backs. So keep Cucurella, sell Chilwell.
Parks.
I don't have much to add. I'm very, very similar in that I'm selling Chills. I'm keeping Cucurella. And Cucurella is either going to be your starter or a backup if someone else better comes in, but for a lot of the same reasons. Enzo plays an inverted system. Cucurella can play that. Chills, we don't, and we've debated that before. You wouldn't be necessarily in a good position there. So get what you can for him. It's no love lost in the sense of like I don't want to see him go. I think he was a good servant to the club, but I think Children's time is up.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, this is a tough one, right? Like I'm a huge Benny Chills guy. I think when he's been out there, he has done enough. But again, that's kind of the crux of the issue, right? Like he's gone through what, 3 ACLs since he's been with us. Like it's tough, right? It's not any knock on him. It's tough when you're constantly injured and you can't do what you need to do. I don't see Cucurella being the starter. I see us bringing in another left back that, now that we know that Maresca is the guy, we know what he wants to do, he's going to be given the green light to go out and get the person that fits his system. So I think that plays to Cucurella's like disadvantage, right? As opposed to where he was before, like we said, kind of maybe playing tactically out of position. Now you're giving the manager time to go get the person that fits his system, not trying to actually have somebody fit his system. I could see Cucurella being the backup. Chills I could see leaving, and then us bringing in a left back to start.
I'm only laughing because I don't think Maresca can go get the guy he wants because managers don't have their say of players under our leadership. So Baghdad Igbali can go get the player that he wants under guidance of our manager, but our managers don't have say in transfers. So as was very well demonstrated by the Potch firing.
Well,
sorry, I'm thinking in an ideal world. Sorry.
Well, just in case, FFP and all that, we can't go get, or we can't afford the guy who fits the system at left back. I think it's a nice transition to our right back conversation. Malo Gusto and Reece James. What are you doing there?
Keep both.
You keep both, but here's the argument that I'm going to throw out here. And this is for everybody, if we're talking about Benny Chills and his lack of availability on the pitch, we can make the same argument for Reece James. Like I think it's a no-brainer to keep him, but just for argument's sake, if we're solely basing Benny Chills on not his lack of talent, but his lack of availability, we could make the same case for Reece James. The only problem is Reece James is one of the best right backs in the world, and Ben Chills is not one of the best left backs in the world. That's the only difference.
And I'll also give the caveat of Reece James is actually homegrown. Ben Chilwell counts as homegrown, but Reece James actually is homegrown. Talking about academy and the soul of the club and all that. He's the guy who gets it. He is the captain. So with that being said, if you get the right offer, if someone makes you an offer you can't refuse on Reece James, I might take it. I'm not saying actively sell him, but if Real Madrid comes in with 90 mil, I'm probably taking it and investing that elsewhere in the squad. But that's a dream. So I'll say keep, and Malo Gusto is your left back.
The other thing that Reese has going for him is he is 24, and Chills is not. And the one thing that I have to believe is more promising is Reese finally got the surgery. So we were always in a like post rehab world with Reece James, and it didn't go well. We've tried something different, and he took a significant amount of time off. So I'm hopeful that leads to different outcomes in the future of his injury proneness. I'm very obviously optimistic that he stays healthy. Very hopeful that he stays healthy.
So center back, I think, is an interesting one here. And with the amount of center backs we have, and maybe I'll open it up after we all go around the horn here. But little game of gun to your head for center backs. So Matt, we'll start with you here. Axel Disasi.
Keep.
Parks?
Keep.
Awesome. Benoit Badiashile.
Sell.
It depends for me on Trev. If Trev goes, I'd keep Badiashile. If Trev stays, I get rid of Badiashile.
So you guys are straight up selling. Okay, I'm going to open this one up. You guys are straight up selling Badiashile. My first thought was loan. He is a young guy. And I think he could, coming back from injury, Parker, you and I were talking pre-pod. Do you get first half Badiashile or you get second half Badiashile? Because those are two very different players. Get the guy some minutes. Let him continue to rebound here. And it's a year of his salary off the books. But I'm curious why you guys are saying sell.
I say it because we're deep at the position. I think we can get something for him. I think he's decent, but he was not very consistent for us this year. So I'd prefer slightly worse and consistent than super high, super low when I'm talking about center backs and positions that you can't really afford to make mistakes on.
Yeah, I 3 bad games followed by 1 good game is not a good model to go after. Yes, he's young, but I also don't see what we need right now at the center back position. I just don't see that just that calmness that we need. And I think maybe he could grow into that, but just right now, and if we're shaking things up, I don't think he's the guy that to kind of fit that system, right? He's a slower center back, one of our slower center backs. Keep in mind we have Fofana coming back. So if you have Fofana and Disasi as your primary pairing, and then you could slot in, if we do keep Trev, you could slot him in. Odds are we probably go out and get and now we have Tosin. So there's another center back that you have. So it's kind of a spoil of riches at that position. And so I don't think he would kind of fit that bill. I think he'd just be somebody else that is just kind of has the Chelsea name, but is just somebody who would maybe be like the Victor Moses, right? on loan for like 17 years and then finally gets one season at Chelsea. Like that's kind of how I see him. Or Poppy Gilaboji, if we want to name drop somebody.
So Body Shield's 18 months into his contract. His break-even number, and I real quick just want to give credit to this. This is courtesy of Bassman93 on Twitter, who put together a list of every player, what's still left on their contract, amortization, all of that. So again, Body Shield, 18 months into his contract, break-even number is 28 million pounds. Do you think you can get 28 million pounds for Body Shield?
Probably not.
I think you could, with the astronomical prices that are being thrown out in world football today. I think 28 mil is, if we're looking at like, if we're thinking like FIFA ratings, probably a 78 to 80 rated player, probably 28, 30 mil. I could see it.
Transfer market's got him at a 30 million on the decline market value. So it's right at that.
So talking about breaking even, here's somebody who doesn't need to break even. And I feel like this is going to be another one that's opened up here. Trev.
Trev for me, go Matt.
I'm going to say keep. He had a strong, last 3 months of the season. He's also somebody who can slot into that right back position if needed. We've seen Disasi attempt to play right back more times than we care to admit. Has not worked well. Trev can fill in that void if history has shown us, if Reese is out with injury and Malo Gusto has played 9 matches in a row and you need to give him a rest. Trev can be more than serviceable in that role. I don't necessarily think you have another player that could slot in as easily. So for me, I think you keep Trev unless you get a sizable offer for him. But if you don't hear any rumblings, then I think you have to keep him. Again, and Collins, I'll probably bring this up later when we talk about one specific midfielder, but he's also one of our academy guys, right? To me, he's somebody who kind of fits that bill. I don't see any harm by keeping him with the club at all.
Trev is a sell for me. You guys know me. I'm a stats guy. But this is the one player who doesn't seem to pass the eye test for me. Anytime I watch him, I'm never confident in what he's doing. He never seems to communicate very well at very weird times with his center back pairing. And let's be real here. Our entire back four is pretty much French. And so having an English speaker back there, what good does that do? No, at the end of the day, you need money. Chelsea fans want Elise, they want Sesko. People still calling for Osimhen, another center back, another left back. You're gonna have to raise that money somehow. And Trev is free money.
For me, he's, if the right offer comes around, sell. Otherwise, loan. I would like to see Trev get regular minutes somewhere else to really gain his confidence back up. And Matt, I like what you said about the serviceable at right back, but spoiler alert, Alfie Gilchrist is that guy for me. So who can, and I'm serious, like I want Alfie to stay. He's on my stay. So I want him to stay. And then in those pinch moments where we need a backup right back or a backup center back, I put Alfie in there. Alfie's younger. I think he's got a higher upside. He fits the passion of Chelsea, and I think he could be a pretty dynamic and exciting player in the future. Trev, I think we know what we have, and I think his upside just isn't as high for me. And I think he can be a security blanket every so often, but I just didn't see that consistently enough last year for me to want to keep him.
All right. Another Academy guy, Levi Colwell. Parks?
Keep. Easy.
Keep. Just not at left back.
No, at right back.
Just not left back.
All right. Then going to that French connection, West Fofana, keep Sell alone.
For me, he's keep. We haven't seen a ton of them due to injury. I think he would have made a really big difference for our team this year. So I say keep.
Keep. You're basically going to be building this team around him defensively. That's why you spent the kind of money that you did on him. You want him to be that focal point, that leader going forward into the future. That's your guy.
Yeah, 100%. Keep him. And Matt, just to add on to that, his break-even number is 50 million pounds, and the guy's played 2 matches in the last year. So no, you're not going to recoup any money on him. So keep. All right, Parker, a guy you just mentioned, Alfie Gilchrist. I feel like I'm going to be in the minority here, but Parks, you want to keep him?
Yeah, keep.
Love him. I think you loan him.
Oh my God, I agree with Matt. Yes. Yes, this guy has a lot of talent, a lot of potential. Give him some regular minutes at, I don't fucking care, Strasbourg or something. All right, a lot of love for Alfie. I like that. Last but not least, everyone's favorite Frenchman, Malang Sarr.
Extend his contract, give him whatever he wants. The man is a legend. He is still on the squad, and Pochettino didn't even know he was on the squad. That is world class, just absolute magician level stuff. He should be praised for that. Give him a contract extension. Done.
Give him everything he wants. All he wants is a squad number, man. That's all he's been asking for.
I don't know if we have the funds to give him a squad number yet.
I want to give him a squad number like 78, like something just like like a complete juniors squad number.
Couple
Yeah,
zeros.
yeah. Get rid of him, please. We cleared all the other deadwood. Just please get rid of him.
Yep. Let him go. Hashtag free Malang. All right. Well, that wraps up our defenders here. We're not going to talk about Tosin. I don't think we risk selling him at all. But welcome to the team, Tosin. Let's go midfielders last because that's going to be the more entertaining one. So forwards. Start at the striker position at number 9. We all know if somebody's coming in, whether it's Sesko or I've seen Ivan Toney's name creep up again. But in terms of what we already have, we got we all know this. We have our one active striker, and we've got 2 bigger names on loan. So Nico Jackson, keep, sell, loan.
Keep. I think he did enough, and he's showed more confidence, and I think he's got high upside.
Keep because we have nobody else.
Keep because we saw improvement, and he was nearly a 20-goal scorer. It's only up from there. All right, the guy who got loaned out mid-season and then didn't play for that club at all, Armando Broya. Keep, sell, or loan.
Honestly, it depends on if you can get another striker. Like realistically, like if you can't get a Sesko, if you can't get a Tony and Osimhen, like if you can't get anybody, you need somebody to be able to play that number 9 position. He's already on the books. I don't think he's that. I don't know what his wages are, but I don't think it's that much. I think he's on a pretty minimal contract. You keep him as a body to give Nico a break. again, that's with the caveat that you don't land anybody else. If you land somebody else, he's gone. But if there's nobody else, then I don't see a way that you sell him with no backup option for Nico.
I think you got to get rid of him. I just don't know what you're going to get for him. His market value has plummeted. I think we were asking like 50 million for him in the window last year. We're not getting anywhere close to that. I think it's pretty evident that he's not a Premier League level striker. So even if we don't get a big name, I think he has to go. I think we'd be better off taking an academy kid at this stage and trotting out someone that's got upside instead of someone who doesn't have as much. So for me, he's gone.
Yeah, I think you got to sell him. Most recent report is that the club will accept 25 to 30 million for him. The guy hasn't proven it at any level. Had 10 goals on loan in the Dutch league at Vitesse. Had 6 goals at Southampton, 4 of which came in the first 6 weeks of the year. Barely did anything with Chelsea. Didn't even feature for Fulham. He's deadwood, definition of deadwood. And you know what? Oh my gosh, I pulled a potch. I forgot about one of our squad players. So let's talk about the other active striker on the squad, and that's David Washington.
Who?
He's a very important player that I'm not going to play.
Got it.
Loan?
Does he have a jersey number?
Sorry, are we talking David Washington?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the loan for me. We also have Doutro Fofana as well. So what do you do with him?
I would take him over Broya.
Agreed. Third striker.
Yeah, David Washington loan.
All right. Last one. Hashtag Rom Redemption Tour.
Fuck off.
What do you do with Rom?
You do the same thing that we all wanted to do with him 2 years ago. Pack his shit and get out of the club.
Go to Saudi, get paid, and just fuck off.
See if you can land a striker first. And if you can, then you sell him.
I'm literally gonna mute you for the rest of the pod.
Rom Redemption Tour. Let's go. All right. Wingers. Let's talk about that left-hand side. I'm going to throw Christopher Nkunku in this group. So we'll just go down the line here. Keep, sell, loan. Gun to your head. Start with Nkunku. Keep, sell, loan.
Keep.
Too easy. Mihajlo Mudryk.
Keep.
I don't know. I love the guy. He's keeper loan, but I love the guy, and I want to see him succeed. I think he'd keep. That's what my heart tells me. I struggle with him sometimes still.
Keep. He is our most dynamic player and a guy who can change the game for better or for worse. But now going to the next guy, I don't think he can do that. Raheem Sterling, keep, sell, loan.
All around. Sell.
Ooh, Matt's pondering here. Matt, I'll give you some time. Raheem Sterling is the man to get the fuck out of here of this pod. Sell.
I think it'd be intriguing. I'm not saying I would do this. I think it'd be intriguing to see if you can loan him. I'd be curious to see what that does. We talk about a player who is very, very confidence driven, right? You can tell when he's on, when he's off. You can visibly see the confidence level. I'd be curious to see what a loan would do for him. We saw, like, high profile loans, right? We saw with, João Felix, right? Just as an example, high profile loan. I'd be curious to see what that does for him. Whether he goes to a different league, maybe gets a taste of something outside of the Premier League. Maybe that would spark interest with other clubs that might want to pursue him after. Maybe if he fits in somewhere else and he finds that confidence. I don't know. I think it'd be an intriguing thought, but overall, sell him.
Raz's break-even number, 28.5 million pounds. I think you can make that back. But I do just want to give a little bit more input on that one because my son Aiden this morning, driving him to his last day of school, talking about Raheem Sterling, says, "Why don't we sell him to Crystal Palace?" And I said, "Yeah, how much do you think they'll get from Crystal Palace for Sterling?" And he says, "A box of chocolates." So sell Rom for a box of chocolates. I'm all in.
I just the loan. I like the wage off our backs because he's the highest paid player at Chelsea right now. I just don't know that the upside of selling him later is going to be any greater than selling him today. So because he is one of our older players. So I like the idea, Matt. I just don't want to deal with this next year too.
All right, looking at the right side, you got Noni Madueke, Cole Palmer. I think we're all going to say sell Cole Palmer.
I'd loan him to City personally.
Just out of curiosity, Parker, I know you got transfer market up. What's Cole Palmer's transfer value?
Any guesses? You too?
I know transfer market is low compared to what the deals go for. I think Cole Palmer could go for 100 mil.
2 boxes of chocolates.
Sick. 80 million is what they have him listed at.
You get 150 million for Cole Palmer. I'm in for selling.
I'm not, just because you can't go out and buy 2 Cole Palmers with that money. Like, you can't replace the guy. You can have a bunch of money if you're trying to run a business and you're trying to make money, sure. But if you're trying to field a team, like, you got to play guys.
Yeah, at that point, what's the purpose of being in a position for FFP if you're not even playing European football? Like, it's pointless.
All right, so I do kid on it. I'm not actively looking to sell Cole Palmer. It's he's a keep. Noni Madueke, though, I think is an interesting one. We do have Angelo out there. I don't really want to bring him into the keep sell loan debate, but we do have quite a few right wings out in the system. Does Noni Madueke make the squad? You just loan him or sell him?
Collins?
I would be interested to see what they do bringing in a forward, because I think Nico can play on the left. I don't know a ton about Nkunku, but I think he can play pretty much all across that front three. I think you have options there. Reece James could play there with Malagusto backing him up. Like, you have options within the squad. And I think Noni has a ton of potential, and getting him some minutes, I think, would be nice. Though it would have to be a Premier League club. So the chances are low, but I would either keep or loan.
I'm keep. I think he's done enough with the opportunities that he's had, especially this past season. I think he's done enough. And I think Cole Palmer, to me, is kind of more of a little bit more of a link up than a direct 1v1 type player. So it adds another layer of dynamic ability and a different look to that front three. So I think you keep him, right? And we all know you can't play Cole Palmer every single match, right? Yeah, he's young. Same with Nico. You can't play him every single match. You need somebody who can slot in, and I think Noni has shown that he's capable of filling that void and bringing something else to the table.
I really want to keep him. My only fear with Noni is, will he get along with the manager? We saw a little bit of consternation with him and Poch, and then they kind of turned the corner together. With a new manager, people have talked or thought of or rumored just squad not being super happy with a new manager coming in. He's one of those volatile type players that seems like he only plays well when he's happier, and he just kind of has a pissier attitude, and I could see issues with that kind of going forward. If that's the case, like if in trainings they don't get along, then sell them, get rid of them if it's not going to work out. But I have a feeling that if anyone's not going to get along with the new manager, it would be him.
All right. So I am going to bring the other two right wing loanies into this. I don't think you keep both. So, and honestly, I'm not sure if you guys are selling either, if they're just going back out on loan. You got Angelo, who is out on loan at Strasbourg, and you've got Omari Hutchinson, who's out on loan at Ipswich. What are you doing with those two?
There are some rumors that Amari could have a pretty decent sized price tag on him. And I think like 40 million has been floated out there. And if you get that for him, I think you take it. Otherwise, he goes back out on loan. And for me, Angelo is still pretty young, right? He's still
19.
pretty right. Yeah, then he's loan for me as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of that plays into the Noni conversation of what happens with him. From what I can recall, Hutchinson was tearing up the championship, which again, it's a good benchmark, but it's not always the most translatable to the Premier League. It's a much different game. So it's one of those, we either have a really good player who's going to make an impact right away and whose skills are going to translate very well, or we have somebody who just thrives in the championship but isn't at the level that we need them to be. I still think, and Parker, I like that. If we can get a good value for him, I think we take it. I think he's one of those players that we can take a gamble on. As far as like, yeah, we sell him for 40. And if he ends up being a superstar, okay, we missed on that one, but we've also pulled how many lottery tickets over the last, 12 months that we're likely going to find something else. So I think he's one that we can afford to, let get away if push comes to shove.
Yeah, and we did get him on a free last year. So I mean, he's not an academy player, but it's free money. No, I think this is the make it or break it year for Omari Hutchinson in Chelsea. He's on quite a few year contract here. But you got to remember Kendrick Paez is coming after this season. That'll be a nice keep sell loan at the end of next season. But no, Hutchinson, you have a lot of players you send to the championship saying, hey, prove you can do it. And then you bring them into the first team. Hutchinson was Ipswich's player of the season. It was fantastic. What he was doing, goals, assists, coming up in big moments. So I think he fits into this squad. Angelo, as Parker said, still young. Played quite a bit and played pretty well for Strasbourg, but he didn't score at all this year, which is weird for a winger. So I would send him on one more loan, not back to Strasbourg, but maybe to a Bundesliga team. I think that's probably the next step in his transition into the first team here. So keeping Hutchinson, loaning out Angelo. All right. Last but not least, we got the midfield. Oh boy, where to start here? Let's go with a player that Parker doesn't believe exists, Romeo Lavia.
You're in a tough position here. Do you sell him and recoup something, or do you keep him on the books, man? I don't know, and I don't really care what we do with him. I don't see how he fits in. I didn't see how he fit in this year either, to be completely fair. I know a lot of people like to talk about him and throw his name around as part of like the best 11, but I haven't seen anything that would lead me to believe it. And when I look at our team on paper, he doesn't make my best 11, nor does he make squads when we travel either. Like he's just not on my list. He's not on my radar until I see otherwise.
I like the idea of a loan. Give him a season where he can prove that he can hold it together after this injury or whatever it was. Give him a season on loan. Let him kind of get that confidence back. And then bring him back the year after.
Yeah, the loan intrigues me, but it has to be to the right team. You know, it can't be to, as an example, in Norwich, if they were back. It but then who in the mid-table is going to take him on loan? I don't see the opportunity as being there. You know, otherwise you're just playing him to play him. You know, throw him in Strasbourg or throw him in Germany somewhere. Like, I don't think that does him a lot of good. So I'm keeping him on the squad. All right. How about another young guy, Cesare Cassidy?
Sorry, real quick. I'd just like to point out that Lavia is the one that stole Malang Sarr's number. That was confirmed by Fabrizio just recently. So just want to call that out.
Nice.
Here we go.
So a guy who had a loan for half the season, helping Leicester on their way to promotion. Cesare Cassidy keeps a loan.
Loan.
I can go either way. I definitely see it. He's got potential, but he's not necessarily a first teamer. But I'm still keeping him. He's my guy. All right. Another youngster, Leslie Ugochukwu.
And see, I keep Cesare because I'm loaning Big Les. That was going through, my list of midfielders. I wanted to prioritize who are my starters, who are my bench, and then who is excess and would benefit from a loan. So that's kind of how I decided to make my decision. And I think Big Les is supremely talented, and he featured a decent amount this year. But he's 20 years old, and I think he needs consistency at 20 years old. So I think that's going to be his biggest priority right now.
Loan. I'll be honest. I don't know what, besides being huge, I don't know like really what else he does. I just haven't seen enough of him to understand kind of where he fits. And granted, he was thrown into a lot of different positions this season. So I don't really know kind of where he fits into this. I think for a couple matches he started at like left back. So I don't know where he fits in to this squad. But I just don't know enough about kind of what position or what role he would play in the squad right now.
See, I'm surprised you guys aren't all over that, because you know who he is? He's French Ruben Loftus-Cheek. He does a little bit of everything. He does just about everything well, nothing in particular great. And so he is the exact guy you want on your squad, especially in an injury-riddled Chelsea. He can play anywhere. Keep him.
I'll go to the next player in my comment here. The Ruben Loftus-Cheek that we have is Ruben Loftus-Cheek 2.0, which is Carney Chukwuemeka, and that's my keep. So I think Carney is the guy with bigger upside, can play multiple positions, better technically. I like that style of football better. I think he suits our team better. It's more speed, more technical, and I think he's a little bit swaggier than Big Les. So he's my version of upgraded RLC.
Yep.
I'm actually wearing my Chukwuemeka jersey right now. He's never getting loaned out. He's always on the squad. Yeah, he is better than Les. But honestly, before he got injured, or before Chukwuemeka got injured, and before Cole Palmer signed, Chukwuemeka was on my list for being player of the season at that point. Yeah, I was like 4 matches in, but no, I think he's a real talent. It's now the big midfield 3. Let's start with a guy who was very solid in the number 6 role all through the season. I believe he is the British transfer record holder, and that's Moises Caicedo.
Goal scoring Moises Caicedo. Obvious keep.
Keep.
Yep, keep. This is the guy you build the team around. His partner in the mid, Enzo Fernandez.
I think it's not a 100%, but it's like a 98% keep, right? It's not like the slam dunk that everyone thought it is that he would be. But then when you read that he was playing with a sports hernia for a good chunk of the season last year and still kind of balled out, still had really good moments. We haven't seen the best of Enzo. I don't think we've seen even close to the best of Enzo. I think he's a player that you also build a lot around, and I think this will be a pretty big breakout season for him coming up.
I think you have to keep him. I don't see another player out there that would fit his mold and his style that matches what we're trying to do at Chelsea. I don't think you find another player like him that can do the stuff that he can do at the level he can with this team.
Yeah, and there's one of the things I see about the manager Enzo is that he manages basically number 6 and then 2 kind of floating 8s, almost 10s. I think that's player Enzo's best role, where he can float up and down the pitch and distribute from wherever. I mean, manager Enzo got fucking Harry Winks in almost double-digit assists this year. Where do you think Enzo Fernandez is going to line up, or is going to end up there? Yeah, keep 100%. Last but not least, topic of the day here: Conor Gallagher, keep, sell, or loan?
Matt, start us off.
If you want to talk about somebody who is for the badge, that's Conor. He's the guy. Collins, you said it all season. It's the running joke. What does he do? He does all the shit that nobody pays attention to. That's what he does. He does the dirty work. Every team needs a player that does that. That's what he does. His growth, I think, even since his time at Palace, from that point until where he is now, has been tremendous. Yes, there have been some learning moments for him, but he's taken everything in stride. It hasn't affected his ability to continue to grow. You know what you're going to get out of him, right? There's no bullshit with Conor. You know what you're getting out of him. He's going to be the engine that drives that 3-headed midfield. That's what he is. He is the engine. You have to keep him. And the only reason why you would sell him is because of FFP. It's not because he's not talented enough or anything like that. That would be the only reason why you sell him, is for FFP, and that's it.
Well, let me real quick counter that. He has yet to sign a contract extension. So if he doesn't sign a contract extension, do you still not sell him because he is heart and soul of the club and let him go on a free?
I don't have an issue with him not signing a contract extension based on what we've talked about and kind of where he wants to be paid. I think he's earned what he's asking for. So I don't have a problem with that. I think he's valid in his position. So I really don't have an issue with that. And keep in mind, with a new manager, he's going to need to understand what his role is, right? We knew what his role is under Pochettino. We knew that. It could change drastically under manager Enzo. So if manager Enzo comes in and says, yeah, I don't really have a spot for you, then okay, then he can leave. But I think there's a lot more at play than just, yes, I'm signing the contract. If he wants a certain amount of money that he feels he's entitled to, and I think that he has a valid case for it, I don't blame him for that.
I do just want to interject that I love that manager Enzo caught on, because it just reminds me of FIFA when you're too lazy to name your manager and it's just Mr. Manager.
Mr. Manager. I was just going to propose that we call manager Enzo just Maresca, and then Enzo is the player, and then Maresca is the manager on a go forward basis to not get confused. Yeah, there's a lot of things at play here. I think the salary that he's asking for is actually pretty fair. I thought he could have made more demands than he did. From everything that I've read, the salary that he's looking for isn't crazy. He's not looking to be the highest paid player on the team, which I think he would actually have some claim to. Not that he would get it, but he would be able to at least say like, "Hey, I'm doing just as much, if not more, than some of these guys. Like, pay me like them." So on the table for me, I want Connor to say a lot. I really want to see him be a Chelsea player next year. I think we're a better team with him, and especially considering that most of the rumors are other Premier League teams. I don't want to see him go to our rivals. I don't want to see him go to Tottenham. I don't want to see him go to Villa. I don't want to see him go to Newcastle. I don't want to see him going any of those places because they become better teams with him out there. I don't want him pressing against us. I don't want him exploiting some of our weaknesses. Like Benoit Badiashile on the ball and Gallagher's down his throat. Like, that's a bad situation for us because I know what he can do. I know the pressure he can cause. I watched it all year. I watched it last year. And Matt, you mentioned the growth from Palace to today. He grew this season too. We talked about him being reckless. You talked about him not being able to pull back and, knowing you're on a yellow card, going in recklessly and picking up a second yellow, things like that. He made those mistakes early on. We didn't see him make those same mistakes later on. Like, he did grow a lot. He did learn a lot. Yes, he was forced into being the captain for most of the season. No, that's probably not his best role. Yes, we probably don't need him in that role on a go forward basis because he was there due to injuries. He's by far the trickiest player we have to debate. I do think there's a price that makes sense to sell him. I just think it's a lot more than even what the club has said. I think the club has said 50, if I'm not mistaken. I think that number's 80, 90. Like, if you want to pay for him, if people want to get into a bidding war over him, then okay. Right? If that price tag gets jacked up, and people, smell blood in the water and can take it, sure. I'd let him go for 80, 90. I don't want to see him go for 50. I think that is a steal in this marketplace for what he brings to the table. I think he's dynamic. He's an engine. And like I said, I think any other team that gets him improves. And I don't like to see that. I think he's better. He's better for us. And he's not going to just ride the bench. If there was a situation where he would just be a bench player, just be like a seldomly used role player, I'd be more open to selling him for 50. I don't think he's that. I still think he gets rotated in a good amount. I still think he plays a lot. He's still a leader for this club. And on a young team, that has to weigh something, especially if we're selling a Benny Chills, especially if we're losing a Thiago Silva. Now we're a really, really young team. The players that we want to sell are Raheem Sterling, Chills, and Silva. Like, those are our oldest dudes. There has to be some value there as a clubhouse guy, as a team leader, as acting captain. I think his voice carries a lot in our locker room, and I wish we weren't in a tumultuous new manager time, but I think Connor is a guy that can help smooth that transition over and make it be better. So it's a keep for me unless a bidding war exists.
He's gone. He's gone for me. I think the 50 million is a fair amount considering it's a player who is going into the final year of their contract and can sign for a free in 6 months. Yes, if he's on a 3-4 year deal right now, I think you can get that bidding war. You can get 80, 90 mil for him. But if he's not going to sign, and clubs know that, 50 mil is great, especially when it's free money. You're not working off a past deal or anything like that. And again, Chelsea fans have expensive tastes. And to fund those expensive tastes, you need to make some sacrifices. I'm not entirely sure that Connor necessarily is a sacrifice, though. I still think, what does he do well? I don't think his voice carries in that locker room, or else there wouldn't have been so many issues with him being captain out on the pitch, breaking up disputes over penalties, which happened 3 times. So I'm not sure how much that carries. Yes, he pressures well. I will give him that. But in terms of him going to a Newcastle or a Villa, he doesn't make them better. He's taking away goals at that point because he's not somebody who can consistently score. We've recognized on this pod that he's a guy who does not look around when passing. He seems to have his mind made up before he even gets the ball where he's going to pass. And he's not, particularly technical with the ball at his feet. He will just run into people and lose the ball. So I'm not sure he makes any of our rivals in the lower part of, the top half of the table. I'm not sure he makes them necessarily any better. If you can get 50 mil for him, perfect. All right. Well, boys, there are a couple more players out on loan in the midfield. We can make this one quick. Matt, your guy, Harvey Vale, keep sell loan.
Loan.
I don't think Harvey did anything at his last loan, or not much at all. The last time I looked it up, which admittedly was a bit ago, he wasn't playing a lot and scoring a lot and doing a lot. So loan.
Yeah, 2 goals in 39 matches for Bristol Rovers last year. Yep, loan him out. Andre Santos keeps all loan.
Loan.
Same.
I don't know where you put him. I don't know if he even makes the bench.
Strasbourg's young player of the year, despite being there 6 months. I think that first half loan killed him. You need to find a better partner in the Premier League. He needs to be loaned to the Premier League. A Conor Gallagher-esque loan would benefit him. Ian Maatsen.
Sell.
He's interesting. It's a very interesting dynamic. If we can get a left back to replace Chills, then I think we sell him. If we can't, then I think there's a legitimate case to keep Ian Maatsen, especially if we're going to be playing that inverted left back, right back, whatever, that inverted wing back role. I think he could fit in there very nicely because we have seen him play in the midfield and as that left back. So I think that role fits him really well. And we know he can play. He did pretty well at Dortmund on his loan. So I think it's worth giving him a shot with this new manager, with this new system, under the condition that we don't sign another left back. Otherwise, he's just going to be riding the bench and maybe only playing in, the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, 100% agreed with everything you just said, Matt. The one caveat I will add is that his release clause is 35 million pounds. And I think there's going to be at least a handful of teams across Europe interested in a 22-year-old internationally capped left back who just played in the Champions League final.
But did give Madrid their second goal. And so I didn't want to say it, but I mean, he did really gift that goal in. So that was a tough moment for him. It doesn't define him or his career, but it was a tough moment for him.
All right. Well, that wraps it up. The last one I have for you, nice little fun one. Enzo Maresca keeps alone. I'm sorry, extend or sack, we'll say.
I was going to say loan him back to Leicester.
Yes.
Sell with the contingency that we have a different manager already lined up.
Swap deal with Fenerbahce for Jose Mourinho. All right. Well, fellas, it has been a interesting roller coaster of a season. We've got one more episode coming out next week, and that'll be our end of season awards. Otherwise, we'll be checking back in with you guys periodically throughout the summer. Nothing concrete yet, but maybe a couple times in the lead up to the season. So, boys, it's been fun. And, oh man, it's fucking Wednesday. This is weird. 2 more days till the weekend. So any closing thoughts from you two?
There's always next year.
Fuck Rom.
There's always next year unless you're Rom. All right, I like it.
Exactly.
Cheers, boys.
Later.